Super. All right, everybody, thanks for joining once again. So, as you all know, this is the second day for our boot camp on AWS migrations. And this second day would be little lengthier, I'd say, because maybe 2 hours and more, because many topics and many tools that we are going to cover. When I say tools, so we'll cover up that the same tool, like, we discussed on our first day, which is MGN, and also we'll discuss a new tool today, which is called TMS, Database Migration Service. Those are very important tools, gentlemen, because these are the tools that you need to use in your day-to-day productions environment if you are dealing with AWS cloud, or you are planning for some kind of a new job or new role as a cloud engineer, DevOps, or solutions architect. So in continuation to what we discussed last day, a quick 5 minutes recap for those who couldn't make it available, or couldn't join last day. So last day we discussed and typically seen that how you can launch or your source. Let's say if you have a source server on premises, so how can you migrate all of the applications along with the data from your source server to a target EC2 instances running on AWS. And also there are a lot of discussion, a lot of questions there, how we can make sure, like, what would be the target environment in terms of, the server sizing, storage, network, etc. Right. And also we have seen last time that how you can use the discovery connector by which you can get some of the visibility about your source server utilizations, right? If you are the cloud engineer, or you have been in industry for long, or maybe you are the DevOps guy, you probably know that for any migration project, utilization plays a significant role, right? When we say the utilization, it means that what will be the utilization for CPU, RAM, and based on that, AWS recommends you what would be the optimum target server would be on AWS, right? So these are the all discussion happened and everything we did hands-on. So in continuation to whatever we discussed last time, we'll complete the rest of the things to start with MGN. So we'll start with MGN first, and then we'll move to database migration service. So I've created a whole set of infrastructure lab ready for you. You can see there are a lot of servers running for databases. There are 2 servers running, etc. But I'm just trying to set the context for everybody, who couldn't join last day. Still, the recording is available on YouTube, our channel. Also, I will share with you guys, whoever missed that. So let's start with the MGN. Again, for simplicity purpose, that, I'm just going to repeat the same thing once again, that what we have and what we are going to achieve for today's session, right? So today, so you can see there's a source server already. So I've created this source server before this session starts. So basically the source server, this server represents this is an on-premise server. It's a Windows server. Okay. Since I don't have any on-prem server, you can use at your lab in your AWS. For your AWS lab, you can create source server on Azure as well, or GCP, or if you have any real on-premise server, good to go. But for me, I've created a server which is running on AWS, but assume that the server is my source server. And then there's another server which is running as a replication server. So whoever joined last time, can anybody tell me or help me to understand what is this replication server? What's the role of this server? I know we know that it's a source server, but what is the ultimate role of this replication server then? running on AWS. Anybody can do kind just explain a little bit about the replication server. Okay, nobody?
Replication server would save the things onto like so from the source server, things will go onto like replication server, and then from like replication servers they will go onto the new server.
You're right, so yeah. So this replication server is an intermediary server, somebody called staging server as well. So what do I mean by staging server? If I just bring up a quick draw.io, so that would be a good reference point what I'm trying to explain here. So let's say this is a typical architecture, right? Very high level though. So let's say this is an on-premise server, okay? And this on-prem server, we are going to migrate the on-premise server along with its data on that particular server on AWS, right? So if you would like to do this migration, you need to have a kind of staging server from AWS language. They call it replication server, as Sadia tried to mention. So what happened? This replication server is kind of intermediary server, and it is a kind of service that would add your source and the target. That means this replication, the first of all, probably you remember that day that we installed an agent, which is a kind of migrations agent, running on that server. Okay, so this agent will push the data to that particular replication server, right? And so this replication server holds all of the data is continuously changing on this on-premise server, right? It's kind of data changes or CDC, right? It's continuous data replication. So let's say you have made some changes here, A, the same changes will be there, A. If you make some changes to B, it would be there as a B. So those kind of changes happening, and thanks to replication server, this replication server actually helps us to do all of this job for us. Okay. Now the question is, what about the real server? The replication server is not your target server yet. It is just replicating from this storage to that storage. That's why MGN, it is called as a block level replication. Okay. The block level replication means the disk to disk replication. Somebody, they also prefer to have a disk to disk replications. Both are same. So that means whatever the disk, whatever the hard drive, whatever the storage you have on premise, the same thing will get replicated here through the replication server. Now the question is, when we'll have the actual target server, okay? And that is something today I'm going to show you when, okay? So basically, there's a process. If I just again, so let's say first, what I've done, I've logged into my source server, this server, and in the source server, in this RDP, you can see that the server is pretty much blank, nothing there, okay? Or I can create a very basic folder, which is, let's say, hello world, for an example. So last day also somebody, asked me a question that, what about the application? Let's say some of the IIS applications you have installed there, right? Or maybe some of your custom applications you have installed there. Do you need to reinstall the same application on the target environment? That's the questions, if I can, still remember something like that. So if you have applications running on this on-premise, let's say this small queries your applications, okay? So once this replication process will start from on-prem to replication server, then also, this application will get migrated automatically, because as I said, these are block level replications. Whatever is in your hard drive, or storage in terms of application binary, ultimately it's a storage to storage replications, right? So application is nothing like all of the binaries sitting inside your on your storage. So this application binary will also get migrated. So let's say now it's time to launch your actual server, which is a target server. That will be your real server after the migrations. Okay, you would like to use this server, then you should expect that these applications will be pre-installed automatically, because these replications server will help this target server to have all of the data there as well, something like that. Okay. This is the in very high level architecture, and this is something happening behind the scene. So this is something I'd like to show you today. So let's say there's my application. It can be anything, right? Hello world. So I just going to minimize that and go back to the console called application migration service, right? So whoever joined last time, they know how to navigate this service. Whoever is new to this session first time, you may just search by MGN or my applications migration service. Click on that, and then it will take you to the application migration service console. If you go down, you will see this is ongoing process, because I've already launched this server before the session starts. So when I say launched, that means I've already launched this target server. Okay. So, but let's say I'm not happy about this. So let's say if I just click on that, you'll be able to see there's a life cycle called test, and then cutover, then final cutover, something like that. Right now, we have launched a test server. Here we go. Who can say what is the purpose of this test, and then ready for cutover, then cutover progress, and cutover complete? Just from your high level, whatever you think, seeing this console, whatever comes into your mind, absolutely okay. You can just explain. What do you think that this life cycle is important, or what exactly this test in progress, ready for testing, or cutover means? Because these are interactive sessions, right? It would help you for your further knowledge. Yeah, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, so ready for testing means the replication has been done completely and the system is ready for entering into the testing phase, because we cannot basically do the live any application without testing, whether we without seeing like all data has been migrated and all application, whatever the applications was running on target server has been replicated to the target server. Okay,
thanks, Jay. You're right.
Yeah, and ready for cutover is like once the testing is done and the real replication is happening in a live, so we can just cut over the replication like a stop accepting the data from target to AWS cloud server, and we can just switch over to the AWS system. So this is a ready for cutover.
Super nice. Exactly. So again, I repeat, whatever you said is absolutely right. So basically, in productions environment, what happens that it is not that easy job, like from replication server, you just create the target server and if your job is done, right? There are a lot of phases like proper testing, functional testing, somebody they call there are different regression testing, a lot of testing there, load testing. So basically, this exactly I have done. So let's say these applications, and through the applications, that's my test EC2 instance I launched. Let's say that's the test server. It is not the final cutover. The test means my system engineer, my database guy, my application teams, or maybe end user, they will drive a proper set of testing on those servers to make sure that my application is running as expected, as same as my primary, without no problem. That is the whole purpose of the testing. And then once the testing is done, when you see there's a green signal from your different stakeholders, then finally you can launch a final cutover, which is a final machine or final server for your productions. And the final means that is your final, everybody is okay about that, and you are now ready to switch your workload from this location to that location. Okay, so maybe on the Sunday night you have done this final cutover and you have just pointed your DNS to here, and then from Monday morning all of your end user will actually land on that particular server. Yeah, somebody raised the hand. Who is that? Who raised
Hi,
the
sir.
hand?
Hi, sir. It's
Oh,
Mobin here.
Mobini. Hi, Mobini.
Yes, sir. I've observed there are two accounts in the organization. Like one is dev test and another is production account. After the migration, are we going to make another, like clone this particular account for the production, or how is it?
Very good question. So what happened for any industry? There's a different, like, you rightly mentioned the productions, dev, test, QA, a lot of servers, right?
UAT, yes, sir.
UAT. So basically what happened when we propose any migration, so let's start with the dev first, okay? So let's say it's a dev, whatever you are seeing is a dev, for an example, it's a dev replications or dev migrations, not your productions, right? Similarly, if you have the same kind of setup, let's say the same copy for productions, QA, test, and other staging, you actually have to follow the same process individually for individual workloads. Okay, because your dev environment is full of junk. When I say junk, like, there are a lot of test development thing happening, your testing environment, staging environment, they are not real productions environment, right? Real production is something like without any problem, it's smooth. Okay, it is ready for your end users, right? So if you see this kind of workloads there on premises, there's a dev, QA, staging, testing, productions, then you have to follow the same process for every different workloads. So for dev, this way; for QA, this way; for staging, another application server. So that, and finally the productions, right? That's how it works.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I will have more discussion on that in interest of time I'm showing, but this is a very good question. I'll come back to you and explain again using this tool step by step how exactly you have to manage this kind of dev, QA, test, different workloads. It's a very good question.
Sir, I have one question regarding this replication.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so yeah, let's say there is a one application which is running on premises setup, and there are lots of data in database, and because there are so many legacy things actually working in database,
right?
So an application is also running, and no one wants to actually touch now. But now what is happening is now we are migrating this database and application to the AWS, like another place. Okay,
Right.
so now management actually discussed and decided that we would not actually transfer all data, but we will transfer selected data. Like we don't want to actually copy the cluttered things. So how we deal with this kind of actually queries or something management decisions?
Yeah, this is a very good question, Jay. Thanks. So usually it happens for many cases, even in real time, in real industry, right? So let's say some of the legacy applications, let's say they are using pretty much old database stack, okay? Maybe MS SQL or maybe PostgreSQL, let's say MySQL 5.5. And their schema designing and all stuff are pretty old, okay? And it's not modern applications ready, right? So usually what happens that there is a two approaches. So cloud cannot do a magic for them, right? So usually in this situation, whether it's completely legacy application, let's say operating system, that database versions are not available on AWS site. If these versions are not available, then you cannot migrate those applications or databases, right? Because it will not work. Okay. For an example, it's a pretty old Windows 2003, for an example, or before that. So this Windows 2003 operating system, server 2003 operating system is no longer available, right? It is a legacy. So, but if your application will not work without 2003, there is a big question mark. Then you cannot migrate, or you cannot even propose the cloud is a fantastic proposition for them, right? But what you have to propose, that first you have to upgrade your application on premises first. Okay. And then you have to migrate this upgraded version to AWS. Okay. That is in many situations, many cases, we actually propose this. Or something like, for some of the applications might be the operating systems or maybe the database are available, but they also are thinking for some kind of betterment in their architecture, applications structural architecture, right? So first you have to do whatever they have, first migrate them. This is called a rehosting. Then encourage your customer that now it is there. You have to, now it is time to, retuning your application. Maybe you have to re-architect your application, and then let's continue AWS with your upgraded application. So there's a two approach. First, as I said, if your application is not at all cloud ready, then there's no way of migrating to cloud. Okay, your entire migration plan will fail. So first tell them that you have to upgrade or re-architect your application on-premise first. Okay, make them cloud ready, and then once done, then you can migrate to AWS. And second option is, if you see that available platform still available on AWS to migrate or to start with this rehosting, then do that. And then later point of time, you can suggest your customer to upgrade further to keep using AWS in a modern architecture fashion, maybe serverless, something like that. Did you get your question?
This is entirely customer responsibility in case actually the application need to be upgraded.
Customer, and if you are the MSP, managed service partner, that's also your joint responsibility to help your customer as well, right? Because your customer
helping is okay, but actually, because if you are upgrading the application, you are buying a new OS, then certainly it is going to incur some cost. Okay, so the cloud provider or migrator who is helping in a migration is not going to actually bear that cost. So customer has to bear that, right?
Yeah, so in most of the cases, what happened that if you only manage the infrastructure or there's something like that, and you are not expertise in application, and that's customer responsibility. It will go to customers that, hey, your application team, they have to change your application code, etc. Right? That's their, or maybe they have their outsourced application vendor. That's not your concern. That is something their thing. Once they are done, then you have to do a handholding your customer to get it done. Okay. From AWS perspective, yes, from AWS, they have a lot of teams like we have, we can have the ProServe team and all stuff. But to answer your question, like, yes, it is mostly customer responsibility and sometimes shared responsibility model from AWS.
Yeah, but this has to be highlighted during the when you are creating a migration plan, so that customer also aware in advance that what has to do.
Yeah. So anyway, you have to provide the proper SOW disclaimer, right, in your proposal.
Okay.
So that is a part of your SOW and your proposal, that these are your scope. That's customer scope. I'll not get into much theory today because they're all practical, but there's a RACI matrix, all stuff, your operations team, they have to manage. Okay. So somebody has any questions? Mobin, Iris, okay, you clear? Yes, okay. Now,
just a small question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, as you said that cloud ready, application, they have to upgrade it. is there any documentation will be provided from the AWS? So like OS is the, for example, OS is the one question. What if they have an older OS version? Might be they have some other applications which have older, for example, uh, Python version or something like that. So is there any proper documentation that AWS will provide? At least this level of upgradation should be done from the client.
AWS will provide you the documentation where all of the listed or available versions. Maybe it can be your it can be your framework, application framework, as you rightly said, or operating system databases. So you'll get those available details from AWS documentations. But AWS will never tell you that whether this application will not work on AWS, something like that. That's your responsibility. But yes, to answer your questions, you will get those kind of documentation that available, applications framework and available operating system, database versions, etc.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
I have one question. Last question is like, is there any place, do you know, where I can find some case studies like a migration, particularly migration case studies?
Yeah, there's a lot of if you go and just Google it, AWS architected framework or AWS migration use cases, right? You will see lot of, or probably I will also share with you after this class. So migrate on-premise workflows. There are a lot of different solutions.
Okay, I will check. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks. Good questions. So yes. So where we were. So basically,
I have a question, Debajit. Sorry, one of the interview questions. Shah here. Sorry.
Yeah,
one of the questions asked by the interview was that some of the applications which do not support MFA or multi-factor authentications, which cannot be upgraded, or say the applications virtual legacy, how do you secure them, though you want to still migrate it onto cloud? So that was one of the questions they asked, but I could not answer that.
Yeah, so basically MFA is a standalone service, so it's not a typical, so definitely you need to define a class, a specific class in your coding. So the thing is that if your application is not ready for MFA on premises, then again the same answer, that first the application team they have to change in their code, like that MFA it should follow, or it should have the capability of MFA. Now the question is, you should further ask a counter question to your interviewer, maybe, that what sort of MFA you need. There are a lot of MFA these days, right? There are console MFA, which is if you like to log into AWS, and then there's a different MFA. This is called admin MFA. One is application level MFA, that if you like to log in, like AWS, AWS.com, AWS.amazon.com, then it is asking the OTP sort of, right, MFA. So yes, so those kind of MFA you can still try using AWS native tool like Cognito. Okay, Cognito does have their different OTP. You can integrate your application with Cognito. It is very easy way to do MFA. Enablement. But again, first you should say, yeah, Cognito and other services we can still try, but it is better to have a discussion with application team whether this Cognito class first they have to define in your application coding, right? And then definitely it would help even if your application is not ready for MFA.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes. Shall we proceed now, or any final questions, further questions? So I'll definitely come back to you for taking questions, but not now. Let's start at least, okay? But all good questions, thanks. So this is my source server, and I've just created a folder called Hello World, nothing there, and you can install the whole application inside that, no problem. But now, if I log into my target server, as I said that before the class starts, I have created a test target server. Test means already somebody explained. So if I go to the target server, let's say that's my target, I cannot see this particular folder on my desktop. Because why? Because just now I have created that particular folder on my source. So replication already started, already there. It is over. And my target instances got launched, right? So now probably you are scratching your head and saying, okay, but then what's the point of all of the changes, because I need those changes. Let's say my testing is failed because somebody said, okay, I cannot see those files anymore on this target server, so I'm not going to approve this test environment anymore. Okay, so now it is time to roll back, okay, and make sure that now maybe the data C must be there here, but right now it's B. Okay, so now there's a process. If I just minimize that, and if I go to these options, if you go there and you can see there's a process that now you can revert to ready for testing stage. That means now you're here, my server is already up and running, but I'm not happy. I need all of my data I've just created right now. So in that case, I need to go back to my stages. So I want to revert ready for testing. So if I just click revert for testing, then it's saying, would you like to terminate the instance launch for testing? That means, would you like to keep the server, or you can discard the server? For me, it is no point to have the server anymore because I need to do a retesting once again. So for me, I'm okay to delete the server. Here you go, and just click on the revert. So yes, we are going to deep dive because I think that this kind of discussion probably you have not seen anywhere, or maybe still somebody's trying to do that. But this is really helpful because these are all the real game I'm trying to show you. So now you can see there's a dance. Yeah. Okay.
One question. Does it not support the ongoing changes like a changes direct like a DMS support, like if something is changing on target in database, then it is actually being replicated on a source. Oh, sorry. If something is changing on a source, then at the same time it is changing on a target as well.
Yes.
So it is not supported here.
It is supported. So the moment you launch that machine, okay, till the replication is happening between this guy and that guy. Till that point, it is continuous replications. Okay. The moment you launch the server and declare that my server, then you cannot have this copy to here. Okay. But this server to that server replication continuously going on as a continuous replication. So that is the point. Okay. Yeah.
So this means that we have actually changed the stage, like a test in progress. In this stage, actually, the live replication is not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So we have to go to the back stage, and then we can actually have live replications.
Absolutely. And always good practice that you can also click on the start data replication because sometimes maybe it is little halted, but now, the replication again, if you go there and now you see, if I just refresh, maybe already start. Refresh. It is already, so an hour ago it is last snapshotted. So make sure that again the replication start, maybe you can stop data replications again. But yeah, the continuous replications, that is the stage you have to right now. You can see the stop and just quickly start the data replications. What happened that whatever the changes you made, then the same changes will get established between your replication server and application server. It is started. And then once the initialization started, then when you launch your server, it can be test, it can be a final cutover. You will be able to see all of the C data right now. Okay, it will take some time.
So do we face such kind of scenario in a live in a live world, real world, like when we move to the stage in a testing and something we push to source database source server, and then we want to replicate that again to that target server. So it is happening in a real world, or
Yeah, of course. Why not? Because for me, it happened for many times. It is happening. I mean, something, your, let's say, developer, they pushed something or changed something in your application server, but they are not ever the migration started. So there's an internal process problem, for some example, or something they had to do to mitigate some of very severity. Okay, a severe problem. It was very urgent though, something like that. They had to do that. No way. So in that case, that anyways, you have to roll it back to your early stages. Yes.
I can understand. One thing is like if we find some bug during the testing, then we can ask to development team, then they can do some changes on a source database, and then we can actually revert to previous stage, and then we can replicate the data. Then we can actually move to another stage. If
Yes.
we do not find any bug, then actually usually, because I'm also doing the same thing, and whenever we move to the stage, then we inform to the team that we have moved to this stage, and please do not make any changes on source server, like a kind of thing.
Yeah, that is the right way to do that, Jay, because the moment you declare that the migration things has started or activity has started, then it is kind of your organization level or announcement to all of your stakeholders that no certain changes have to be pushed to your server unless until it's really buggy or really urgent, right? Otherwise, all of the time you get the same kind of problem, and in overall migration
Exactly.
target will get failed.
Yeah.
Okay. So, couple of things now. It will take some time, but what I will do, this is a very important thing that I'm going to show you. Last time, who asked these questions, I cannot remember, but somebody asked that, is there any way that I have to define a proper settings at my target end? So when I say,
Can I ask one thing before, please? This replication server, where does it actually created? I know it is like created into AWS, but I'm assuming it is like created near like endpoint or something, where it's easier to transfer the data from the server machine to the like replication, and then there is like um where like bandwidth doesn't affect that much. Is that right?
I show you. Okay, if you go to instances, you can see ultimately this is EC2 server.
Yeah.
This is a replication server. Okay, and if you go to volumes, you will see there's a volumes and snapshots are continuously creating. So the same questions I received and I answered last time. So to answer your questions, this is the server that I showed you, and this is the volumes are getting created for those kind of replication continuously from your source to target. So you at your instance level, this is the guy who is acting as these replications, and this storage are nothing by these are all volumes creating at the volumes level. Saria, did you get your answer?
But what's the like location of these like volumes? Is it like some kind of edge location, or like we can choose this location, or like AWS choose the location of
Yeah,
these?
that is, I was about to say, this is something I'm going to show you right now. Okay. But this is a very good question. Then you have to choose that whether the replication server should be ideally from AWS based recommendation perspective, that wherever you are planning for your target instances to get launched, in the same region you can use, or you may use this replication server for the, to eliminate the latency problem. Okay, so in our case, if it's a North Virginia, let's say I am going to have my target environment on my North Virginia. For an example, it can be Mumbai, it can be Dubai, somewhere else. Then my replication server should be near to my target instances region. Cool? All right. So no answer. I will assume that there's no answer. Silence. Okay. So now if I go back to there and see now there are a couple of options, very important. So replication settings and launch settings. Okay. The replication settings is something like it would answer Sadia's questions. Okay. That means in this replication server, there are a lot of options, right? If you go and edit that, you see the replication server where it is getting launched, which subnet, what sort of replication server should be, T3 small or something like that. What sort of, EBS volume you'd like to attach? Do you need any public IP? So these are the by default, options, and you have to choose whenever, when you first time you create this option, then it will be asking to define all this stuff. Number one. Number two is replication server is very important as a decision factor for your overall solutions architecture. When I say important in terms of, let's say, from AWS best practices perspective, if you have 10 server to replicate on AWS, then one T3 small is okay. So one T3 small can handle up to 10 server, okay? Or if I say in different way, if you have 10 volumes on your on-premise site, for an example, let's say you have got 5 servers, but ultimately you have the 10 volumes or 10 storage, then also you need to factor one replication server for 10. If you have 20, then you have to factor another replication server for that. So if you rely only one replication server, but if your volumes are more than 20, 30, then you will soon have a problem in terms of latency issue, and probably your migration will not be successful. Okay, that is a very important point you have to remember.
Volume, you mean to volume is like a local disk or?
Yes, local disk.
Okay. Okay. As you said, like if we have 10 server, in that case also we can actually choose one replication server.
That's correct.
Right? Or we need to define a different replication servers.
No. So let's say if you have 10 storage or local storage or local disk, right? Across 10 servers, then also you can factor one server, or let's say 10 local disks is attached to only one server, or then you need to factor also, one replication server. The moment it is 11 or 12, then better you need to have another server.
If let's say those 10 source server at 10 servers at source are doing different work, then if we replicate all of them in a one replication server, then data would mix, or how it is actually replicated the data like a volumes. It is creating a separate volumes like a B, C, D, or how it is going to happen.
Yeah. So that is your strategy. Let's say if you have 3 volumes, and these 3 volumes are for different purpose, okay? Something like that. And so what happened that, the same replication server, if you use, then you see exactly the same, logical disk partition sort of thing. Let's say you will see C, you will see V, okay, and you see Z on the server, and and irrespective of whatever it is doing, no problem. Okay, but as I said, if there are more than these 3, let's say 10, 11, 15, right, more than 10, then better you have to create another replication server, and you can connect the same server Okay, but this time the volumes will be different.
So basically, you're saying that we should connect maximum 10 volumes to the replication server.
Not maximum, it is a recommendation from AWS. Maybe you can have 11, 12, but from our experience and from the DRS documentation, this is something a best practice. Then 10:1 ratio would be okay.
Sorry, I'm asking too much question.
So I will come to you, Joy, later
question.
point of time, because
Yeah,
I have a
okay.
lot of plan. Please hold your questions, because otherwise, the intersessions, it's a very good questions, but I have some certain plans. So I'll definitely come to you.
Okay.
All right. So this is now this is the replication settings. So it's very important that you have to go and edit the replication settings and this server and all of the things very important for you to define. And also there's another very important option called launch settings. Okay. And in many cases, I have seen that in the launch settings, people, they do little mistakes. Sometimes they don't define a proper values against different fields. Maybe sometime what happened in Microsoft, sometime you choose bring your own license model. Sometime probably you don't need bring your license included model. Maybe you can have the bring your own license model on premises. So those stuff you have to be very careful and mindful during these launch templates. So again, two things, replication settings and launch settings are important. However, there are another settings, those are super important in most of the cases. Those are what would be your target server settings. These are all related to replication settings. We know that this is my replication settings by which, what would be your replication server configurations. That means this one. But what about your target server settings? Because I cannot see the target server settings in that detail, right? What will be my storage of my target server? What will be my, target server EC2, instance type, whether it's a C5 or T2 or maybe M5. Okay. Now you can see there's an option called EC2 launch template. Okay. So this is very, very important, gentlemen, that you have to do this EC2 launch template. If you go to modify, and then if the moment you go modify, it will take you to the launch template wizard. Now the question is, why we are here? Again, I repeat, we are here because we need to define my target EC2 server, which will be launching on AWS and their respective configuration. Okay. So like means, there are a lot of settings, but mainly the problem and, most of the customers or, MSP they don't define the proper instance type. Okay. So right now you can see the default is C5 large, but maybe for my case, it is M5 or G5 or any larger instances. Like, so let's say for me, it is T2 medium again. Maybe this is time I have to relaunch my testing environment once again. And for my testing environment, I don't need very fancy bigger server. I may have this T2 medium, which will work for me.
This is only for testing?
No, this is for testing. I'm going to do that. It can be anything that you can do. Maybe it can be productions. So what I'm saying that for my case, it is for testing, right? So I can choose T2 or M5 as per my choice. You can choose as per your requirement. That is something I wanted to choose. So if I go on to modify and go to modify.
But we are choosing, we supposed to choose instance type based on the analysis we have done, and we find the right instance type. We have to fill that, we have to choose that right instance type, right?
And that information you already had in the last class, right? Because we have the discovery connector, and then now you know that what will be your target instance from the discovery recommendation that we had. You're right.
Okay.
Yes.
So okay, fine.
You remember, right? That day we had a discovery agent.
Yes. So that's why actually I'm trying to
Yes.
relate that whatever
Uh,
we find during the discovery, then we need to fill that information
Absolutely.
here.
Absolutely. Very important.
Okay.
Very good question. Yes. So this is a very good question, and brought it up by Jay. And probably this is a very important, that what will be your target instance type based on the your utilizations metrics. So last day, please refer to last day recording where I showed you like how can you do this, run this discovery agent, and what would be the recommendations given from AWS on the target system. So for this case, let's say my analysis says that I'm okay with this T2 medium, right? And there's another important point, is very important, that key pair login, right? In many cases, even I missed a lot of time in real some of the productions environment. I forgot to mention the proper key pair. So what happened? If you don't choose the key pair, then your EC2 instance will get launched, no problem. But you cannot log in that server because there's no PEM file associated with that particular server. Okay. So for me, this is very important. So you have to check that whether the proper key pair is there, whether the proper subnet you have to define or not. That means where it's actually going to launch. For me, I've created a separate VPC subnets. For your case, it can be different, but this the subnet, all of the security group, you have to just double check as per your um, requirement. So let's say this is select, I've already launched. So this is something very important, guys. Like, you have to double check and create template version. So let's say T2 medium and create template version. The moment you create this template version, it would come with the version 6. That means I have got many versions right now. If I click on that, and you can see my latest version is 6. So again, somebody can explain, maybe anybody, why I have done this version. So if I go to version 4, I can see C5. If I go to version 6, I can see T2 medium. Why I have done this? Why I have done this new version? Why I have done this T2? Why I have checked?
Backup.
What?
You need to know the updated version, which version. So you do the version control using version.
No, that's not the
This
question. The question was definitely the version control, but why I have created a new version for this launch template? Why do you need that?
because we have a different instance type here. We have already changed the configuration of the launch template.
Correct.
So that's why we prefer to make a new version actually. Otherwise, it may overwrite the previous one.
Yes, maybe this time a different security group. Who knows, right? Maybe this time a different EBS volume. This time a different instance type, availability zones. So yes, that could be the reason that you may create a different version for different workload. To answer Mobin questions, maybe your test environment will be running on different availability zone or different instance type, but your production server should have a very big fat servers. It will not work on T2 medium. That's why you need a different version template for the different production type. For development, maybe this T2 medium is okay, version 6. For QA, it's also good, but maybe for productions, I should rather choose the C5 large.
Can we ask one thing?
Yes.
Can we use this version to revert back?
So you can delete the template version, but yeah, I mean all because the whole purpose of versioning, that whenever you have the version, is kind of locking about this is kind of immutable theory for any versioning, right? So any versioning, there's a backend, the immutable, because you cannot change that. You can delete that, or maybe you can create a new one. That's the idea.
This is similar to AMI launch template. This
Or maybe CI/CD, or maybe S3, a different, whenever you see the different, or maybe Git, or any kind of version controlling stuff or services. All right, so I've created this default. Now if I go and set as default as 6, so that means the new, right now, if I go and launch my test server, I assume that already the replication has been done or ready for this now see here. I need to go back and check. But now if I go and launch a test server, it should be it should follow all of the configuration that I've defined in my launch template options. Let's see. I don't know in next 1 hour whether I will complete the DMS thing, but very good. I know people are very interested and asking all of the questions. Thanks to you guys. So if I go to servers and okay, you can see that it's still, oh my God, it is not correct. After some time, you'll see there's a, okay. So now you can see all of the sync has been started. I mean, all of the Delta sync has been started. That means that the new folder I have created, this is getting right now synced with this replication server. I'll come back here. But meanwhile, what I can do, I can go and talk about DMS, which is database migration service, and we'll come back again and complete these steps, okay, in interest of time. All right. Who can tell what is DMS? Very easy questions. And what is the purpose of that? At this time, no, not Jay. It should be somebody else, maybe Priyaranjan, maybe Mohit, Mobin, Shah. There are a lot of people. Deepak. What is
Because
DMS?
it's difficult to remember the IP address of each and every machine or server, you create an equivalent a URL for that. So in order to resolve that, you use a DNS resolving IP to your URL.
No, answer.
Basically, name resolution. It's basically naming resolution solution.
No, that was DNS. It is a DMS on my screen. Probably you can see my screen, right, guys?
Oh, okay.
It's a DMS, which is
database migration
service. Yeah. So it's as simple as that. It is a database migration service, and this is a managed service offered from AWS for the database level migration. It can support homogeneous migration. It can support heterogeneous migrations as well. So let's say if you like to migrate from MS SQL to PostgreSQL or Oracle to PostgreSQL, then DMS actually supports, and there's a certain tool called SCT, which is schema conversion tool that would help for certain migration. Being honest, it is not that easy. There's a definite specialist there for such kind of conversion, because for heterogeneous database migration, there are a lot of dependency, right? The complete schema is getting changes, stored procedure, functions, data type, constraints. There are so many things. But right now, I'm just going to give you ideas what exactly DMS and how can you configure at initial level, because DMS itself is a very vast topic. Database migration itself is a very vast topic. So before I'll get into the DMS, there are different way of database migrations. It is not necessary that you have always used AWS DMS for database migrations. Okay. So that something like that, let's say if I go back to my draw.io architecture tool. So let's say in my case, my database on premise, it is MySQL, or it can be MS SQL, because I'm the MS SQL guy. It's MS SQL, right? And then if you like to migrate this database to AWS, yes, you can use the same DMS. In the DMS, Yes, there's also replication service is needed. Okay. And these replications again will talk to your source database, and there's a target database as well. Right now it is not there. Okay. But this replication service will connect this source database, and based on the replication, different replication process for MS SQL, it supports CDC, right? Continuous data changes. For MySQL, it supports binlock. For PostgreSQL, it is something called their PostgreSQL lock, WAL lock. So for Oracle, it support Oracle Data Guard. So there are a lot of native database service it follows. So that's the one way that you can use DMS as a tool for this kind of database replication. But you can also use database native replication tool as well. That means MS SQL, they have a lot of replication tools. Something like Logship is very good replication tool, right? So you can have MS SQL target environment on AWS, and you can establish some native replication tool like Logship, and you can actually use those native replication for database migrations as well, no problem. So that's the thing, that it is not mandatory that you have to use DMS all the time. Even I suggest that you should try first the native database native replication tool rather DMS, because in DMS is very good tool, very robust tool, but there are a lot of complexity in terms of configuration, and also it would a kind of costly affairs. I mean, you have to you have to factor some of the additional cost for this kind of migrations. Okay.
Native migration tool also provide the CDC feature?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So MySQL, MS SQL, they have, the CDC like Logship, it supports CDC, right? It's a logs, right? All of the changes happen there. Those changes will get there. Even MS SQL, they have the different replication tool as well, right? Their native replication tool apart from Logship as well. It has the mirroring, it has always on. There are a lot of things, coming in MS SQL in terms of, replication, disaster recovery. And for MySQL is a binlock, GTID. These are all of the replications, native replication. As I said, PostgreSQL, it supports their own PostgreSQL extensions for locks, WAL, they call it WAL. Oracle, they have Oracle Data Guard. So these are all native tools. But in interest of, so that's the whole agenda, that the objective of the call, because the migration is pretty big topic. What should I say, it's a bigger topic in any cloud, right? So we'll have a subsequent lectures also. Maybe this 3-day migration bootcamp, it is not suffice. Maybe, I got many requests that it should be more. I'll definitely planning to have more in the 400 level discussion as well, 300, 400 level. So right now, let's go back and use DMS for such certain migration for our databases. Okay. So what I've done, since I don't have in real on-premises databases, what I've done that, again, I have created one RDS server, which is acting as a source database. Let's assume that database 1 is my source server. Okay. Again, the source server cannot be RDS, right? Of course, it's not. Because on your premises where you get the RDS ID. So the source server, maybe it's running on your on-premise VMware or some kind of hypervisor stack. But I'm just going to show you the process, how to configure, how exactly it works, right? So let's assume for this session, like this is my source and that is my target. And yes, there's a slight different, guys, that unlike the MGN, you don't have any target instances from day one. I mean, you only create replication server, and when you decide that that is the cutover, and then you can create a test and all of the production that already we discussed, right? But for databases, you should have the target from day one. Day one means the moment you have to start this, this configuration. So for me, I have created the database too. I'll also create, interstack in front of you, maybe next time, next session, step by step, like database and, how to create RDS. But right now, it's my source, is my target. And then if you go back to database migration service, the first thing you have to do that you have to create the replication instances. Okay. So the replication instances means, as I said, this is the replication instances, the same as your MGN. And this particular replication is continuously replicating or connecting your source database and target database. So my source database is database 1 and my target database is database 2. Okay. And this replication is continuously going on. Now what? Now, replication instance, okay. But now again, you have to define the endpoint. Endpoint means you have to make that particular DMS tool understand, okay, who is my source, who is my target, because out of the box, DMS cannot understand, right? So you have to make them understand what is my source and what is my target. So in my case, I've already defined and chose my database 1 and database 2. How did I do this? Again, in my next session, you will see all of the steps, one after another. But I've already done this, an endpoint created, this database 1 and database 2. And then if I go to database migration tasks, you can see there's a replication, ongoing replication is happening through a CDC. If I go to the migration and then go to table statistics, you can see I have got two schema, and out of in the schema, I have created the tables called employee and student. I'm going to create another in front of you. And then those tables already got migrated from on-prem to AWS for this example. And it's a kind of continuous data changes process. So now what I can do, I will log into, okay. So what I've done in this infrastructure, so let me delete that. I have created a jump server to connect my both of the servers. Okay. So that means everybody knows what is jump server, right? So again, let's say this is our second use case, which is DMS, right? We are talking about that. So I have created one source server, one target, one replication, right? So this replication is connecting to source. This replication also connecting to target. But I need to have a kind of additional jump server, somebody called Bastion host. Okay, whoever prefers what, no problem. And from this jump server, I can connect this source and target just for the manageability purpose. Okay, because I need to access those databases using some database client. For me, this source server is running MySQL. This target server running on MySQL, and I've installed MySQL Workbench, pretty standard tool here in the jump server. And using that particular tool, I will connect the source and the target as well. Let's take a break for 5 minutes, guys. We'll come back after 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, I think it's okay. 12 seconds. We are back. All right. So yes, before the break, we discussed like this database 1 and database 2, and already 2 tables got replicated between on-prem and source and target database. So what I'm going to do that, I'll log into my Jam server, okay, and try to connect both source and target database, and I'll try to make some changes here, and the same changes will get replicated on target. That is the intention objective. So let's go to EC2 console, and this is my Jam server. I've just given a different name for different purpose. So I'll log into this server, IIS web server, and log into that particular server, which is my Bastion host for time being. So I go to connect and RTP and get password. Migration game. Okay. Password. So don't worry. I'll show you all of the steps that I've created for that one, for DMS. Today I'm just showing how it looks like once you are configured properly. All right, and I think so this is the workbench I've already installed on this server, and you see that I've already added my primary and secondary server there. So that's my primary, which is database 1, secondary is database 2. So if you go to primary, that is the console. If you are familiar about database, this is exactly it looks like. So now if you see, there's an option called schema, and in the so it's not a database class, by the way, but I'm just trying to show you some of the very basic options. So I'm going to create a table. So my database name is this kind of database, agree, and then inside that I'm going to create another table, which is, let's say, demo class or demo. Okay. And inside the demo, I'm going to create, this is a table. Okay. The demo is a table. And inside the table, let's say demo ID, something like that. It is my primary key. Always remember that without primary key, your DMS will give you a lot of troubles. I'm saying that it cannot happen, or your DMS will not work without primary key, but primary key is a recommendation from AWS that you should have the primary key enabled on your on your source tables for the migration and continuous replications. Okay, something you have to keep in mind. Now let's say it's just like a name. I'll not make a big column table, or maybe this is address. Okay, so marker, and this is a small table, demo ID, name, and add. And now I'm going to create this table. Okay, and apply. Okay, there's a small problem. There's a please enter a demo. There's an error SQL databases. What's that? Okay, so I didn't mention this one, not null. Okay, so my database has been created. Sorry, my table has been created, which is demo. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert certain records in that particular table called demo. Okay, so that is a query. So I'm just going to execute the query. It is a very small query. So basically in use, so you have to define the table, database name and insert into. So my table name is demo this time. So just define table demo, and then you have the column right inside the demo table, which is demo ID. So name should be exactly same, demo ID, the name and address. It's pretty straightforward. And then just close the parentheses, and then values should be maybe 1, and then maybe name is Tom B. Erickson's and address is something like India. Okay. Let's close it. There's okay, insert into, there's a problem, or the problem may be that table there's a space. Oh no. All right, so insert into, there's a demo. If we just drag and drop over there. Okay, what is the problem? Insert into, just
maybe semicolon after
semicolon,
insert
yes,
into.
this one. Okay, add,
yeah,
that's right. And I think this is not needed, semicolon. Yeah, I missed something. No, I think the semicolon is not there. Maybe I'm doing some add name demo ID, demo ID is okay. Insert into is also okay. Values is something like 1. The name maybe that's okay. It shouldn't be a problem. And it's India. I'm just copied the exactly same thing right here because I did that last time, and there's a semicolon there at end. Okay, let me check what's the problem. Let's do the troubleshooting a little bit. So your syntax, you have an error, definitely syntax problem. So insert into demo. All right, demo ID. There's no space. That's okay. And Tom error code 1007 error is equal syntax. Okay. Missing something. Demo. Yeah, some issue definitely. Anyways, so what I can do, just refresh the database once again. But I'm just trying to show you the exact, replication of creating a new entries, or otherwise I can show you, right? So insert into demo. It's very easy. So, give me some time. I think the table. Anyway, so what I can do, let me modify some of the records. I'll figure it out. Very easy. But so you can see if I go and select, I've already created a table called employee. I'm just calling you just very, select query, and I'm just put it there. You can see there's a result, right? Which is one Tom B. Erickson UK 4096. So I've created this table and insert only one records there. Okay. And what I've done that I've just then configured this DMS between these databases. And if I go and connect to the second database, if I go and connect to the second database, you will see the exactly the same record set. Okay, so employee. This time I'm calling. So there's a two table I've created. So if I go again and create another SQL, let's say use employee. Select. Start from maybe employee. This is the database, which is our table VENA GERIE. So the same record set you will see on my target location as well, Tom B UK 409. So that means all of the records are already replicated through this DMS. Again, if I go back to primary and see once more time if there's any problem there. The problem there. See. So now let's say I don't have any record in that, only some primary key, but no record there. And I'm trying to see the same table, whether it will get replicated on my target or not, okay? Because I'm getting some of the problem for the execution of the syntax for some reason. So now, if I go back to the DMS console, and here this migration is happening. So what I can do, this option, the same option, kind of option like the MGN, just stop, and maybe you can start once again. Now it's stopping state, and make those changes. I mean, it should be continuous replication, but in interest of time, I'm just forcing to do little faster. So I just stopped it, and then I will start it. So once I start, then you see under the table statistics that you can see automatically the demo table got identified. There's a DDL statements, and then if I just start that, it's load completed already. And now if I go and connect to my second database server, I should see the demo one, the newly created table. If I go there and do little refresh, maybe, let's see. This is my second server. Hold on. Oh, this is the database. And under tables, you can see demos that yes, there's a no such record inside that because the execution's problem, but you can see the table now got created. The same way, if you go back and create a primary tables there, automatically the table will get created here at the secondary as well. Okay, let's go back, quickly create without any record. That's okay. Simply create a table. Okay. Clone here. Column, same way. It's ID and name. Okay. Now apply. Finish. All right. And now if you go back and just refresh, it's already there. New table for demo. Now, if I minimize that, oh, stop. Sorry for that. Go there. After some time, you see because it stopped way. Because if you start, then you see the same way. The new table will get appeared. Now it's starting. So that's how you can configure this one, the DMS. How
Sir,
DMS?
one
Yeah.
question.
Sorry, question. Yeah. Sorry.
Actually, you are replicating the changes by actually stopping the this instance. Like if let's say CDC is working in a perfect way, is there any default time in which actually it pick the data from source and replicate on target, or we can configure it?
So in the DMS, you can configure. There's an option I will show you. The blob storage, the lob, large binary object. But it depends about the size of your table. Okay, if let's say the table is very only few rows, few columns, then it would be instantly almost few seconds. Okay, but let's say if the tables are lot objects, right, and all of the and your at your source database, there's a lot of changes happen all the time. Okay, maybe your database is very busy, so again you may expect within few seconds, few minutes, those additional data will get replicated on target through DMS.
Can I also do the replication like in a daytime? The database source database is actually busy whole the day. Can I schedule that replication happen in a night time when there is no transactions being happen?
Yes, absolutely. So what you can do that you can just stop the way I showed you, right? You can just stop that things, and then the next time whenever you would like to do, just start or resume. Then there's a checkpoint. Always there's a CDC and there's a checkpoint got created. So it will check that when the last checkpoint there, and after the checkpoint, it will start replicating after those data set changes.
Okay.
You can see there's a change data capture CDC, and even you can see everything in your mapping, that CloudWatch metrics and all stuff. Now you can see load complete, and now if I go, you can see there's a let's say it's a night time for use case, and you have just started, and now you can see there's a new data demo got identified, right? And if I go the particular target databases, for our case it is this one, secondary, and under schema and under the databases you can see okay, now let me refresh to start. Just give me a second. It is, I think it's already replicated. Go back. Still getting. it is still going on, I think, before load. But you can see that, they automatically the particular table got identified by. But the thing is that, if you have a very, very large data sets, and don't do at night and all stuff, because it is not a best practice. There's a whole idea about the DMS is a kind of continuous replications, right? And if you go and check in a night, then what happened? The DMS, it needs a lot of resources at your source. So let's say if there are so many data already got changed during the entire daytime, and you are doing at the night, and if you just enable that, then what happened? That it might so happen that at your source database, that point of time, it would be a hugely compute in contention. Okay, what happened? Maybe some issue. Failed. If I go there. Okay, something failed. Why so? So let's see. Or maybe I stopped and so there's a nice thing like now you can see also the troubleshooting part that why all of a sudden it got failed. So this is a mapping rule basically there. Next day I'll show you, because here you have to define all of the schema. I've already defined my database, and this percentage means everything. Okay, everything we'll discuss, but not now. But now if I again go and check why so, what happened, why all of a sudden this this fatal error has come up. If I go and restart. So there's a whole idea, guys, that next day we'll discuss more about DMS, because our MGN topic is over, and we'll see how to configure step by step, the replication instance, how can you create, two databases, how can you do endpoint, and all of the other configuration. And it would be very interesting for you to know more about the DMS. And also I'm planning for disaster recovery and the native way of the database replication. Disaster recovery not now, but once this DMS thing is done, I'll show you maybe MS SQL. I'll pick up one databases and I'll show you how can you do the same thing by using native replication, maybe Logship. Okay, that's something also I'm planning for. All right, so that's all, I think. Any questions further? Finally, okay, now it's okay. Now if I go and see the table statistic, now you can see it is done. And now if I just refresh my databases, and now you can see on my secondary database, this new table that I created on my primary, it is now appeared. Okay. Super. Perfect. So any final questions? Maybe Deepak, Mobin, Mohit, Priyaranjan, Sadia. Do you understand the basic idea about this migration? Why so silent? I mean, okay, yes, I got it. Yes, from Sadia.
Yes, Abhijit, it was fine.
Yeah, so this is Devajit. So thanks, Priyaranjan. And do you think, guys, again, I repeat the same thing, like this kind of session useful? So at least you get some of the understanding and idea how things work in the real migration scenario.
No, this
Yes,
is very,
100%.
this is very really helpful and realistic. Yeah, it helps a
Okay.
lot, Abhijit.
It's a
And
motivation, Priyaranjan, and everybody, because your motivation will make me more about to bring more about this kind of sessions. Definitely, next couple of sessions we'll be focusing on migration. We'll try to become a little expert in that. So we'll deep dive into DMS. We'll deep dive to other, as I said, the migration strategy, all hands-on. And then subsequent lectures, we are trying to bring up the proper disaster recovery, DR drill in real situation. Many people, they don't know what is DR drill. how can you execute that? Slowly everything will come up.
Yeah. No, really appreciate your efforts. Yeah. That's
Thank
great.
you. All right, I'll figure it out why this small this query couldn't execute it. Maybe from my end some issue. I need to check some of the small error. In next class, I'll show you. Maybe I did some mistake there. All right, thank you so much again, everybody, and we'll see you maybe next week for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much,
much.
Devajit.
See you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
It was
Bye.
a really nice session.
Thank you, mate. Bye.